My fiancé's secretary caught the bouquet at my colleague's wedding. She knelt on one knee shyly in front of my fiancé and proposed to him. "Sheldon, will you marry me?" My usually aloof fiancé unexpectedly softened, his voice tender as he said yes. Then, with heartfelt affection, he slid the engagement ring that was supposed to be mine onto her finger. As everyone cheered, the secretary threw her arms around him and winked at me defiantly. Instead of getting mad, I laughed and took the lead in encouraging them. "The mood's perfect. Why not seal it with a kiss? Don't forget to set a wedding date so I can prepare my gift." As soon as the words fell, a chorus of excited shouts rose from the wedding guests. "Kiss! Kiss!" Hearing this, the smile on my Sheldon's face froze for a moment. After clearing his throat awkwardly, he quickly changed the subject. "Since it's Lisa's big day, winter, and I won't hog the spotlight. We can catch up later." Sheldon's fake smile faded as he pulled me aside, his expression turning cold. "Nora, don't go too far. Isn't it just the hot part of the wedding? Why are you being so sarcastic?" I almost laughed out loud at Sheldon's shamelessness. What kind of decent fiancé openly flirted with another woman right in front of his? Especially someone like Sheldon, the cold-faced CEO who wouldn't even crack a joke at work. Before I could respond, his secretary, Winter, spoke up first. "Nora, you've misunderstood Sheldon. I've always liked Sheldon, but I know someone as excellent as him is out of my league today. Sheldon was just being kind, helping me fulfill my little dream of confessing to him." Winter deliberately showed off the engagement ring on her finger as she spoke. "A week ago, I found an exquisite ring box in Sheldon's suit pocket. I knew the brand. It specialized in custom engagement rings." I was ecstatic as I held up the ring box, expecting a proposal from Sheldon after 8 years. Ironically, the ring didn't even fit my finger. No wonder Sheldon looked so flustered that day. He then explained, "The designer must have messed up your ring size. I'll have it adjusted later." I was so deeply in love with him that I took his word for everything. But now, seeing the ring fit perfectly on Winter's finger, like it was tailor-made for her, I wasn't a fool. How could I have missed it? When Sheldon slid the ring onto Winter's hand, everything became clear. I wasn't the one he intended to propose to. Noticing my gaze fixed on her hand, Winter immediately looked flustered and started to take off the ring. "I am so sorry, Nora. This ring must be yours, right? Sheldon only lent it to me just now to go along with my act. I'll return it to you now." I dropped my gaze and said coolly, "No need. You keep it. I can't stand using things others have touched." Hearing this, Sheldon's face turned sour. "Nora, what do you mean by that?" I lazily glanced at him and said flatly, "Exactly what it sounds like. Besides, wasn't that ring originally meant for Winter?" A flicker of panic crossed Sheldon's eyes. He quickly avoided my gaze and snapped, "Nora, stop making things up. I already told you the designer messed up the size. It was just a coincidence that the ring fit. Winter, if you're upset, I'll have another custom made for you. All right?" A chill ran down my spine. Sheldon took the meaning of an engagement ring so lightly, so casually, just like he treated our relationship now. Watching Sheldon go to such lengths to defend Winter, I suddenly felt tired. It all seemed so pointless. I waved him off dismissively and said with indifference, "There's no need for all this, Sheldon. Let's just call off the engagement." Sheldon was startled, blinking rapidly. After a long pause, he asked incredulously, "Nora, what did you just say?" I've always loved him dearly, and the thought of being apart from him terrified me. On the other hand, Sheldon would threaten me with breaking up every time he and I had a big fight over Winter. He had me by the throat, forcing me to yield repeatedly. But all I ever gained was a series of deep wounds. Winter abruptly grabbed my hand, putting on a show of being reasonable, and hastily advised, "Nora, don't be impulsive. Let's talk this over. You've been with Sheldon for 8 years. How could you possibly bear to give up on this relationship? Besides, Sheldon is already the vice president of the company. Now, if you fall out with him, aren't you worried it will affect your career in the future?" Hearing this, Sheldon stood up straight with a smug look on his face. He adjusted a suit cuff and looked at me reproachfully. "Winter is right. I've provided you with everything you need for all these years. What more could you possibly want? Nora, that's enough. Stop making a scene. There are so many people here. Aren't you embarrassed? If our colleagues notice, how am I supposed to face them at work? Sheldon put on an air of superiority, as if I owed my job to him. But he seemed to have forgotten that I had accompanied him to that cramped 10-square-meter basement where we were struggling to start our business. It was I who accompanied the client to drink until I got a bleeding ulcer. To help him get promoted and secure the project, I chose to stand by his side resolutely. When everyone else dismissed and looked down on him, a bitter smile twisted my lips as tears pricked at my eyes. After 8 years of devotion, what had I gained? Sheldon, if you feel ugly, I will go back now and not disgrace you here. Don't worry. There's no future between us anymore. Let's part amicably. Perhaps my tone was too flat. As Sheldon watched me force back my tears, a rare trace of panic crossed his face. Nora, I didn't mean to. Noticing that Sheldon was starting to warm up to me, Winter bit her lip in frustration. Her eyes instantly turned red, and she looked like she was about to cry. Nora, I'm so sorry. It's all my fault for being too selfish today and hurting your relationship with Sheldon. I'll go and explain everything to everyone right now. At worst, they'll laugh at me. As long as the two of you are fine, nothing else matters to me. Winter had an expression of enduring humiliation, as if she had made a great decision and pretended to walk into the crowd. Winter, don't go. Without thinking, Sheldon grabbed her hand. He turned to me, his eyes filled with impatience. Nora, why are you pushing Winter to this point? She's just starting her career. What if she is ostracized because of this? Sheldon's words made me feel sick. Looking at him, protecting Winter behind him like a treasure, it seemed like I was the one who broke up the couple. Someone behind us suddenly called out teasingly, Mr. Sheldon, you and Ms. Winter are the company's next golden couple. Drink a few more glasses today and share some of that luck with us lonely singles. Sheldon smiled unconsciously when he heard this. We'll be right there. Sheldon adjusted his emotions and responded loudly. He then wrapped his arm around Winter's slender waist, brushing past me as they walked straight towards the banquet, as if to him, I was merely an insignificant person. I knew that a lot of people in the company were shipping Sheldon and Winter as a couple. Yet Sheldon never stopped the rumors from spreading. He even enjoyed this ambiguous relationship with Winter. But once, when Sheldon gave me a ride to work and was seen by a coworker, my coworker gossiped, asking if Sheldon and I were dating. Sheldon swiftly deducted the colleague's salary for a month, warning him not to speak recklessly and disrupt the company's atmosphere. From then on, Sheldon never gave me a ride again. He claimed it was to avoid rumors and insisted that I take the subway instead. Winter's laughter kept drifting into my ears. She nestled in Sheldon's arms, her cheeks flushed red with shyness. In the past, if I'd seen Sheldon being so intimate with another woman, I would have confronted her. In the past, if I had seen Sheldon being so intimate with another woman, I would have confronted him. I would have lost my mind, yelled, demanded explanations, even begged for some justification that made sense. But today? No. Something inside me had broken, and there was no way to fix it. I watched them walk together, laughing like a couple straight out of a cheap romance. Winter's cheeks were flushed, and Sheldon looked comfortable, almost relaxed, by her side. A perfect scene, worthy of applause, or a bitter laugh. I took a deep breath and returned to the hall, but not to join the celebration or pretend everything was fine. I grabbed my purse and started walking toward the exit. Before I could reach the door, a colleague, clearly curious, stopped me. Nora, did you see Sheldon and Winter? They look so cute together, don't you think? Cute. The word echoed in my mind. Cute. As if I were just a spectator in this story, a passive observer of something that was, in reality, a slap in my face. I looked at her with a cynical smile and replied, "Cute is an interesting word. I'd call it pathetic." She blinked, confused, but I didn't wait for more questions. I left the hall without looking back. Outside, the night air was cold, but I felt like I could breathe for the first time in hours. I took out my phone, opened a ride app, and ordered a car. While I waited, I thought about everything that had happened over the past years. 8 years of sacrifices, veiled humiliations, and empty excuses. 8 years of believing we were building something together, only to discover that, in the end, I was just a stepping stone for Sheldon to reach his own glory. When the car arrived, I got in without saying a word to the driver. I just asked to be taken home. During the ride, my thoughts were a whirlwind. Part of me wanted to disappear, to run away to some place where no one knew my name or my story. But another part, a part one barely recognized, was furious. A cold, calculated anger was growing inside me. When I got home, I sat on the bed and opened my laptop. For months, I had been keeping evidence of how Sheldon conducted his business. Contracts, compromising emails, messages he thought no one would ever see. It wasn't something I had ever intended to use, but now everything felt different. He hadn't just betrayed me emotionally, he had treated me as disposable, as if my presence were nothing more than a convenience for him. I spent the next few hours organizing everything, every document, every message, every detail. I wasn't doing this to hurt him out of revenge, but to protect myself. He had already made it clear that he wouldn't hesitate to discard me if it served his interests. I couldn't let him walk away unscathed. The next morning, I went to the office as usual. Sheldon arrived a little later, accompanied by Winter, both of them radiant. I watched them from a distance, keeping my expression neutral. When he finally saw me, he hesitated for a moment, but then approached with that fake smile of his. "Nora, can we talk?" I knew he didn't actually want to talk. He wanted control. He wanted to silence me, to convince me that everything that had happened was a misunderstanding and that, somehow, I was the one overreacting. "Sure, Sheldon," I replied calmly, following him into his office. As soon as the door closed, he started. "Look, about yesterday, I know it was uncomfortable for you, but you have to understand it was just a joke. Winter doesn't mean anything to me." "A joke?" I interrupted, my voice cold as ice. "Sheldon, you proposed to another woman. You put a ring that was supposed to be mine on her finger. That's not a joke. It's an insult." He opened his mouth to respond, but I didn't give him a chance. "And furthermore, you're standing here defending Winter as if she's the victim. But who is it that helped you get to where you are? Who stood by your side when no one else believed in you? Who sacrificed years of their life, their career, their health, so you could succeed?" He was silent, but I continued. "Sheldon, you didn't just betray me. You disrespected me. And you know what? It's over. I don't want this anymore. I don't want you anymore." He tried to argue, but I had already made up my mind. That afternoon, I handed in my resignation letter. I didn't need him or the company anymore. I used the evidence I had collected to ensure he couldn't harm me in the future. I walked out of the office with my head held high, feeling a freedom I hadn't felt in years. Sheldon could carry on with Winter, but deep down, I knew he would never have what I had given him: loyalty, true love, and unwavering dedication. As I walked down the street for the first time in a long time, I smiled. I had wasted 8 years of my life with Sheldon, but I wouldn't waste another second. After leaving the office that day, the feeling of freedom was overwhelming. Every step I took away from Sheldon felt like shedding years of weight off my shoulders. But I knew starting over wouldn't be easy. I was beginning from scratch, with no job and none of the connections I had built in his company. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, I felt in control. That night, at home, I sat on the couch with a cup of tea and began listing my skills and experiences. I had learned so much during the years I spent by Sheldon's side: how to negotiate contracts, manage teams, and handle difficult clients. Though he would never admit it, much of his success came from my work behind the scenes. It was time to use all of that to my advantage. In the following days, I started applying for new positions, not at traditional companies, but at startups and small businesses that valued innovation and boldness, concepts Sheldon would never understand. I also reached out to former clients I had helped win over for Sheldon's company. Some were surprised to hear I no longer worked there, but many were eager to continue working with me, no matter where I landed. Within weeks, I was hired by a fast-growing tech startup. The environment was dynamic, energetic, and the complete opposite of the rigid office I had left behind. They gave me the freedom to lead important projects, and for the first time in years, I felt like my work was truly valued. On top of that, some of Sheldon's former clients started reaching out directly, asking for help on projects his company had neglected. The real turning point came when one of those clients, an influential investor, made me an unexpected offer. He wanted me to use my expertise to start my own consultancy. The idea was intimidating, but he was willing to fund the launch, convinced of my potential. After much thought, I took the leap. This was my chance to build something that was truly mine. Over time, my consultancy began to grow. I hired a small team of talented, passionate professionals, many of whom had left Sheldon's company out of dissatisfaction with his leadership. Together, we started securing significant contracts and building a strong reputation in the market. The irony? Many of the companies that had distanced themselves from Sheldon's firm began working with me, citing my more transparent and innovative approach. Meanwhile, rumors about Sheldon and Winter's situation started to circulate. Apparently, things weren't going as smoothly as they seemed. Without me to balance the business, Sheldon's company began facing serious issues. He lost several key contracts to my consultancy, and clients started questioning his ethics and leadership. Winter, whom he had hastily promoted to prominent roles, proved to be incompetent, creating even more problems. It wasn't long before she left the company, taking what little was left of Sheldon's damaged reputation with her. One day, as I reviewed documents in my new office, I received an unexpected email. It was from Sheldon. He wanted to schedule a meeting to discuss a potential partnership. I laughed as I read the message. He was desperate, trying to salvage what was left of his company. But I didn't need him. I politely declined and returned to what truly mattered: my own success. Months later, I was invited to a networking event filled with entrepreneurs, investors, and industry leaders. As I mingled, making new connections, I spotted a familiar figure in the corner of the room. Sheldon. He looked worn down, as if the weight of all his poor decisions had finally caught up to him. He noticed me and hesitated before trying to approach. But before he could say anything, I was called to the stage to speak about my consultancy's growth and my innovative work in the industry. His expression as I spoke was one of pure disbelief. At the end of the event, as I chatted with other entrepreneurs, Sheldon finally worked up the courage to approach. "Nora, can we talk?" he asked, his voice more humble than I had ever heard. I looked at him, remembering all the years of pain and sacrifice I had endured by his side. But now I was a different person. I smiled politely and replied, "There's nothing for us to talk about, Sheldon. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And you? I hope you've learned something from all of this." I left him there without waiting for a response and returned to my conversation. I didn't need Sheldon, his apologies, or any remnants of the past. I had built something for myself, something solid, and I knew the best was yet to come. That day marked the definitive closure of a painful chapter in my life. It was no longer about what I had lost, but about what I had gained. And now, every step I took was toward my own future, a bright future where I was the protagonist of my own story.